there's been a lot of things said maybe about the circumstances. You played the game Sunday.
Yeah.
You weren't in Ottawa, were you?
No, I didn't go for a number of reasons. One of the ones is if we didn't win, I figured I might have a tough decision to make. And
regardless,
I wanted some time to think about it in peace and quiet in my office while the game was on. And as it turned out, the game didn't go very well, as most of them didn't this year. But I wanted some time to process what I thought was the best interest of the team.
So that question came up. Was that the final straw? The way the game went, the way the second half went?
You know, I have a very special relationship with Corey, and we talk every day of every week, and we're not naive about how this business works. He also is not naive, and I wasn't either, about how we were doing. We were struggling. He was working his butt off to try to come up with a whole bunch of different formulas to make it work and try to win a game. And you know, every week we would talk, and you know, we were resigned to the fact that it was going to be pretty tough for us to get to that new stadium, and because we're both realists, you know, we're not going to try to pretend that we're good and everything's going great. It's part of the gig. So I wouldn't say it was the final straw. I think it was a lot leading up to it, and at that point, when everybody talks about the interception and all that, I think it's really 0-9 more than anything. One particular player, one particular decision doesn't affect the bottom line outcome on it, and hey, as it turned out, I got fired before he did. Well,
that's the thing is so you'd made your mind up before they came back to Ottawa that you were going to fire a guy who was probably one of your best friends.
Yeah.
And then you go in Monday morning to meet with Craig.
Yeah. You know, I actually met with Jeremy the night they came back for quite some time because I really valued his opinion. You know, he's a good sounding board, and we'll get into him later, I'm sure, but I valued his thoughts, and I wanted to make sure everything, whenever I made a decision of consequence, I wanted to make sure I bounced off certain people, and I wasn't off track with anything. And so I slept on it, and I had a meeting very early Monday morning with Craig, and he wanted my thoughts and my suggestions, and I said that it's probably in the best interest of the club that we make a move. And you know, it was one of those things where, you know, we kept going throughout the day with the process and trying to figure out how and when. And the challenging thing for me was that I had a head coach I had a lot of respect for, sitting in his office basically waiting for it. And at the end of the day, it turned out I wasn't able to deliver that message. So, yeah, you know, it was a day that I'll never forget, that's for sure.
Craig mentioned things like leadership of the franchise, salary cap management, roster management is among the reasons.
Sure.
Are those legitimate? Is that a legitimate? How do you sort of?
They must, because they fired me.
It's true.
You know,
it's just hard to have your work criticized.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me, do I agree with myself getting fired? Who would say yes?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I get it. You know, when you're 0-9, if we're 9-0, my leadership and my cap management and my roster management isn't in question. When you're 0-9, everything's in question. And I'm no different than anybody in that organization, including Corey, that we're under the gun, we're under the microscope. Craig has his views on how he wants to run that team, and I have no issues with whatever he said, what his reasons were. He had them. I respect them. Would I agree with them totally? No, of course I wouldn't, but I get it. You know, it's part of the gig, and I have a philosophy that I've dealt with over the number of years that I've been here on how I did it. I've never changed. I haven't been one of those guys that walk into a locker room and go scream at the team, because I've always believed the head coach should be the voice of your team. Because if you have mixed messages like that, in my opinion, are the players run into the GM or they run into the coach, and then you have a whole bunch of, I think from hierarchy top down, you have to be very consistent in your structure. And once we got into the football season, I backed out of being, and you know how it is, Marie, I mean, in the off season you talk to me almost every day, but during the season you talk to Corey every day. And that's what I strongly believe in. And there's obviously odds and ends that'll come up that I have to talk, but and I didn't deal with the team anyway. I don't like calling players in one-on-one, because to me that's undermining your head coach. But I get it, they want a presence, and that's sometimes not my style.
You look at the high point of the Grey Cup win, and you've won 10 of 18 or 28 games since that point.
Yeah.
Did you do something wrong? Did something happen in that? I guess we could probably answer that question myself, but I'll let you answer it.
Yeah. What we did wrong is we didn't win.
Yeah. And you're
And you know, again, it's not an excuse, but most teams, when you lose your starting quarterback, and even in this year's case when we lost 2 of them, it's going to be a challenge to win without any other injuries. And again, it's going to come across as an excuse, but it's also, in my opinion, a fact that you don't have Darian Durant and Kevin Glenn playing quarterback for you, and you're playing with a 23-year-old that has a lot of upside, I think. But again, you are what you are, and we just couldn't recover from it. And if I could change something and do something wrong, I'd have Darian Durant playing quarterback right now for us. And I'll bet you right now you wouldn't be sitting here talking to me.
You have to live with how easy is it to live? Is that easy to live with, or is it incredibly hard?
It's very hard to live with. It's very hard when Darian got hurt. But this year we had Kevin, so it wasn't the end of the world. But we knew Darian's a pretty big piece of our team. And then when Kevin went down, it was like, oh my goodness. And fortunately, we have a good young guy and a couple others coming up behind him, and it just wasn't meant to be. You know, that's just as good as it was in 13, and it lined up for us. It was the opposite end this year in 15 for us, and nothing would go right for us. You
talked a little bit more about Corey and your friendship.
Yeah.
You guys are still going to be friends,
yeah.
But maybe because that sort of, maybe not blind you, but sort of impede your vision of Corey, what he was doing as a coach? Because we saw as every loss came on, and I don't know if you listened to the last scrum on the radio, he was kind of different.
Yeah.
But could you still, you know what I mean, getting your friendship impede, might have maybe some blinders on with Corey with him? Maybe because he got that vote of confidence over 6. But
I think the word you mentioned is friendship, but I use the word trust. I think Corey, every day he was in that building, knew I had his back, and I knew that he had my back. And as it turned out, we all know that I was in a position to fire him because that's what the boss is for, and I have a boss too. But at the end of the day, everything he tried to do was always about winning. And it wasn't about to appease his ego, as was portrayed a lot. Yep. Did he say some things that ticked off a lot of people? I guess he did. Did I coach him up a little bit on it? I tried to. Yeah. But Corey's not going to change, and I don't want him to change. Like, I won't change. I don't want myself to change just because of the pressure and the winning and the losing. But there was something about him when I interviewed him back, you know, before the 12 season that there was a feeling I had that he was going to be really successful as a coach, and I still to this second believe he's a good coach. There's a lot of factors that went into him going sideways and just not getting the results. But I still think he's a bright young guy, and I enjoyed my time with him. And some people will say, well, you lost your job because of him. I don't believe that. I lost my job because of myself. It wasn't because of Corey Chamblin. You
said you've never been fired before, and I know we kind of think in this business where what's the last line on everyone's resume is you're hired to be fired. Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Well, I was driving over to see Craig when he called me to come over, and I was saying to myself, man, I'm going to get fired for the first time in my career. Really? And it was quite a lot of things going through your mind, obviously, but it was a pretty special day that day in a lot of weird ways. You know, saying goodbye to a lot of people was really hard. You know, I built a lot of relationships over there, and there's a lot of great people that I'll miss a lot, and that's tough. That's really tough. But the neat moment that came about it all was that there was two actually that I drove over to get fired, and I did. And as I'm driving back to the field, me and Corey crossed paths literally in our rider vehicles. And I actually stopped and reversed and wound down my window. I said, "You're next."
Really?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing with Corey. He said, we were grounded to it. It's just, it can kill you, and it does beat you up a lot, and it hurts. But the really neat moment of it all was when Corey came back. I waited for him to come back, and then we went into the stadium together, and we went our different ways for a while. Then before Corey left, he came in my office, and we shared a moment there for a little bit, and it was the last time we visited in my office. And as fate had it, ironically enough, you know, he was talking to me, and all of a sudden his phone rang. He said, "BT, I got to take this call, but I'll see you around." I said, "Okay, take it easy." And he says, "It's Coach Tomlin. He's calling me." And as he left my door, he said, "Hey, Coach D, what's up?" And that was my last moment with Corey. And that was pretty cool because sort of that's where it all started in a way, is when Coach Tomlin called me about him. So it sort of brought it to an end, and our era was over.
On Tuesday, you get to see two guys, Jeremy O'Day, who's always said you've been him the opportunity to do this job, and Bob Dice, who you've known since he was little Bobby Dice, because it came
I've
up.
known him for too long.
Too long. What did you think what do you think of that? Do you think of that move? What do you?
I mean, as hard as it is for me and Corey to leave, I'm really happy for them to get a chance to be able to do something in their career that really, hopefully, will help them. And they're two solid, good people, and I think I give a lot of credit for Craig in doing that, because he could have did whatever he wanted to do, but I think the decisions he made to replace us are very sound decisions. I think J.O. has got a huge future ahead of him as a GM, and he's a solid guy. Both guys weren't comfortable with how this went down.
No.
They were, we were emotional with each other. That's just the way it is in this business. But and Bobby, of all the troopers of coaching staffs that you can imagine, to finally get a chance, I was really happy for him too. And I really hope they do good, and I think they will. I think they're two bright young guys that always know that the team's first. And when you have people like that in that position, you're going to be fine.
Because actually, O'Day looked like a deer in the headlights on Tuesday. He just didn't look.
And that's not him.
No,
that's not J.O. He's a calm, cool cucumber that's as polished as anybody, more polished than me. Yeah. And it was not easy for J.O. to go through this. It was his birthday.
Oh,
and I said, well, happy birthday, you got my job.
Jeez,
so, no, I mean, you got to bring levity to it, because it's so stressful and you're going through so many tough emotions, and there's a lot of closed door meetings, and does he know what that's going on, and everybody's uneasy, and I'm not bitter to anybody. It's the way the world works. It's a lot different when I left Winnipeg, but I gave it my best here, and it didn't work out at the end, but I know we won a Grey Cup here, and I'll never forget that.
What is Sunday going to mean to you? I hate to say it, two of your former teams.
Well, yeah, I've been in this game since '99. Yeah. This will be the first time since '99 I haven't been in this game.
Wow.
And yeah,
that's back before they had an O in it, just an O.
Yeah, yeah. That's sort of scary in a way, but it's going to be the most strangest feeling I think I'm going to go through in a long time. I don't know where or how or I'm going to watch it. Of course I'm going to watch it. I'm a football person, so of course I'm interested in that. I don't know what to tell you on that, because I actually don't know what to do or where to do, and every day, you get the gear to get to that stadium and go to work, and it's like, oh, I guess I don't go there anymore. So it's really an adjustment that I'm not there yet on, but I'll get there.